Hello, everyone, and welcome to MK True Crime. I'm Mark Eiglarsh, your host for today. I'm a former prosecutor, veteran criminal defense attorney, adjunct law professor, author, and most importantly, an avid pickleball player. Now, Diddy faces sentencing today, or already has, depending upon when you're watching this. And the question is, what does the future hold for him? We're going to discuss with our all-star panel. Plus, a former Wall Street big shot and his aide are charged with trafficking women to a sex dungeon. The facts are outrageous. We're going to share what we know about that one. And also, singer David, who somehow spells his name with the number 4 in this title, he lawyers up with this celebrity attorney named Blair Berk. Now, what does this mean for the case? We'll talk about it. And also, we're going to give you an update on the cold case of the yogurt shop murders. Now, I am joined today by I don't just say this, I mean this, an all-star cast. These guys I respect personally and professionally immensely. I refer cases anytime I can. I speak very highly of these two. We've got Jonna Spilbor, a criminal defense attorney. She's the founder of the Jonna Spilbor law firm. And also Mark Geragos, who just started doing criminal defense work and hopes to move on from DUIs to something more complex in the future. Actually, he's the managing partner of Geragos and Geragos and a phenomenal best-selling author and a terrific attorney. And I'm so glad they're both here. Hello, you guys.
How are you, Mark? Hi, Jonna.
I'm choosing to be wonderful.
The other Mark.
I am looking forward to hanging out with you. We got a Mark sandwich with a little Jonna Spilbor in the middle. It's going to be a great time. Let's start with Diddy, okay? Let's start with Diddy. Some are watching this before he gets sentenced. Some are watching it afterwards. So this is going to be really cool. We're going to talk about, what the potential sentence may be, what it should be. I want to start with you, Jonna. Tuesday, the judge rejected the defense's motion to throw out this case. What was that about, and should the judge have done that?
The judge probably got it right. This was not unexpected. There are certain motions that have to happen before anybody is ever sentenced, but both in criminal cases and in other situations, in civil cases, there are motions you need to make before something else is going to happen. And in this case, the defense was trying to throw out the 2 charges that the jury came back with guilty verdicts for, claiming that the transportation for prostitution which was brought under the Mann Act were unconstitutional. Now, the Supreme Court of the United States has already ruled that the Mann Act is constitutional. So at least the judge allowed them to argue it, but not surprisingly came down against them on it. But
no surprise.
But no surprise. But let's keep something in mind. These 2 charges, this is still a win for Diddy. I don't care. I don't like him personally. It's a win for Diddy. He's got a really excellent shot at getting sprung loose after sentencing. And I'm sure we're going to talk all about that.
Let's do that. First of all, for those who just crawled out from under a rock, Diddy went to trial on a bunch of charges. It was an 8-week trial, and they acquitted him, the jurors did, of the most serious charges, including sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. But they found him guilty on 2 counts of the Mann Act. What is that, Geragos? And also tell us about what the defense just filed.
Okay, so the Mann Act, for those of you who don't know, if you go to Burbank Airport and you want to fly to Vegas on a Friday afternoon when you're watching this, be careful of what you're thinking, because that could potentially be the Mann Act if you're going to go have sex.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Yes, I know. I know. When you fly to Vegas, that's the furthest thing from your mind.
25 years, happily married. No.
Very. Right. Yeah. Which is even more of a Mann Act violation. But what the defense just filed as we're taping this was a reply to the government, what I like to affectionately call the government, we're sore losers and we're going to make everybody know it. They filed this crazy sentencing document where they're asking for 135 months. And for those of you who don't do math well, that's over 11 years. And mind you, if you understand what happened here, Mark set it up perfectly. The government went to trial on 5 counts. 3 of those counts, the most serious ones, was a RICO and 2 sex trafficking counts. Mind you, the victims of the sex trafficking were Cassie and a woman who goes under the nickname or the anonymity of Jane. And he was acquitted. Diddy was acquitted on those 3 counts. Those 3 counts could have cost him his entire net worth, over $1 billion, could have cost him the rest of his freedom, life. Government took a swing, they lost. So what do? The defense basically, for lack of a better term, conceded the Mann Act violations, the kind of ticky-tack foul. The government, not to be dissuaded, argues that Diddy obstructed justice, if you can believe that, by going to trial and fighting this case, in essence, that he also, the trial itself, even though he was acquitted of the conduct, was found not guilty, that we're going to now say, Judge, even though the jury didn't buy it, we want you to buy it, and we want you to enhance his sentence. It's frankly outrageous.
All right. So in the interest of disclosure, not that you would have felt any differently, you have a slight connection to the case. If you could just divulge that.
Yes, I gave Diddy my firstborn. And,
okay, right.
So,
and by
yes.
that, his daughter is one of the lead attorneys in this case. And when you said RICO earlier, we might have lost a few people. RICO stands for racketeering, and they tried to make him out to be the Tony Montana of the lube world, and they weren't successful in doing so. Jonna, let's talk about sentencing. He could get 10 years for each count, correct? Let's talk about what legally he's allowed to get. Let's start with that, yes?
So yeah, under the guidelines, he's looking at 10 years per count. It should not happen. Why shouldn't it happen? Because sentencing is really governed by the sentencing guidelines. They used to be mandatory. They're not so much anymore. Now it's discretionary. When you do the math, right, the defense is looking at arguing that Diddy should only be sentenced to 14 months, which after you do jail math, you get credits, you carry the one, you do that, then he should walk. I mean, he would really walk probably before Christmas, if not sooner. Juxtapose that with the prosecution, of course, wants the book thrown at him, and they want, as Mark said, 11 years. Even contemplating 11 years for the 2 charges for which he was found guilty is absurd. The judge now has to decide, where am I going to fall on this? Are there mitigating factors? Are there aggravating circumstances? Is he going to do middle of the road? Is he going to throw the book at him? This is what we're waiting for tomorrow. And I got to tell you, I don't know which way this judge is going to go.
And she said tomorrow, because we're shooting this.
Oh,
hold on, we're filming this Thursday. We're actually releasing it Friday, so that's why we're saying tomorrow. It looks like I'm playing devil's advocate because I got 2 people who clearly think that he should walk free with a hug, and apology, and reimbursement of legal fees.
Well,
so
wait a second. How do you get a hug, apology? He's been in custody for over a year. He hasn't seen his family.
You wouldn't turn it down, Geragos. Come on.
Well, listen to me for 1 second.
Yeah.
I'll let you play devil's advocate. I'll actually make it a little bit easier for you. I think the over and under here. You know what an over and under is, Mark?
Yeah.
I know you don't have sex, but do you gamble?
What?
So you said you go to Vegas, you don't have sex. You gamble at least. So if you go to Vegas, and we'll use the gambling theme, there's something called an over and an under. Yeah. And the over under in this case, to my mind, is 39 months. I picked that number, and I won't get into it on the sentencing guidelines, but it's based on the top end of a guideline. And so I'm going to take the under 39.
So 2 things, okay, as I play devil's advocate. Number 1, I do have sex when I go to Vegas, but with my wife. That was the point I was making.
I can see a man.
Still TMI.
And more importantly,
do you gamble?
Most judges sentence defendants somewhere within the guidelines. If the guidelines are around 7 years, like I'm hearing probation came up with, don't you think the judge is at a minimum going to go somewhere in that range? Plus, I'll add to that, this is the same judge who, after the acquittal on the major charges, chose not to release him. Doesn't that get you into the mindset of this judge? And don't you think he'll give a a sentence somewhere within the guidelines, Jonna?
All right, so here's the thing. The fact that the judge did not release him is interesting because on the one hand, you could say, all right, tea leaves say this is a judge who's going to throw the book at him, doesn't want him to cut him any slack whatsoever, kept him in custody. However, there's a more hopeful side of this is the judge might have said to himself, I'm going to keep him in for as long as I can because on the day that I have to issue his sentence, I'm not going to throw the book at him. And this is the message that I'm sending.
Okay,
hope springs eternal when you're a criminal defense attorney.
By the way, Jonna, to your point, I was sitting in court when the judge denied, because it was the day of the verdict, he denied the bail. And what he did is he went and he looked at the USC, the United States Code. The code groups the Mann Act in the section that is referenced as violence. So he had basically, and he stated this on the record, I cannot release him now, but he did state this is not to imply at sentencing that I'm going to do the same thing. So,
all right, so more
springs eternal.
That's helpful. More devil's advocate. The judge is not restricted, Mark Geragos, to just what the Mann Act means. Okay, so somebody was transported for the purpose of sex. The judge can consider relevant conduct, correct? Which includes a lot of the stuff that he heard during the case, including but not limited to someone who wants to testify at sentencing, Mia. So I want to know your thoughts on her. He was Combs's personal assistant.
He just ruled. He just ruled.
Yes.
Earlier today, about an hour ago, that Mia can testify. Government represented 5 minutes. Well,
okay, great.
Of course, because Mia's not a victim. So
let me set it up. Let me set it up. Of course.
Wait, did you ever leave the DA's office?
I'm playing devil's advocate very well, Geragos. Or else
You're
we got three knucklehead defense lawyers.
DA equals devil. Go on.
These viewers/jurors want to hear a fair and balanced discussion. So let's get back to Mia.
They're cheering for their team, but that's another issue. So.
Okay. So Mia served as a personal assistant to Combs from 2009 to 2017. She's testified that Combs physically and sexually assaulted her on multiple occasions, and her exact words, these are her words, Judge, I ask you to deliver a sentence that reflects the full measure of harm that he has caused. The years of coercion, financial abuse, humiliation, physical and sexual violence. You're object. Hold on.
I'm objecting because
it hurts. And the profound trauma that he has inflicted as a result. So my question, now I've teed it up, keeping it fair and balanced, because if he does get a significant sentence, these people watching are going to go, wait, those knucklehead lawyers just defended him, and we have no idea why this happened. It's a complete injustice. But can't the judge consider relevant conduct? He sat through this trial, and he heard a lot of stuff, and so did we, about Diddy. All right, Geragos, go ahead and defend him.
Let me just tell you, number one, if you watched Mia testify, if you saw the evidence, one of the reasons it's too bad district courts don't have television, Mia was thoroughly, completely impeached. Mia's testimony was, the jury gave it no moment whatsoever, none, zero, no credence. It was, to say it was absurd is giving too much credit. It was completely debunked, number one. Number two, yes, relevant conduct can be considered. The problem is that the acquitted conduct, there's a difference between relevant conduct and acquitted conduct. And the government has obliterated that difference. Every nonsensical relevant conduct argument that they've made, the jury rejected. So that is, the judge heard the evidence. The judge was there. And in fact, on the subsequent bail petition, he cited what he couldn't unsee. And by the way, Sean wouldn't be sitting in custody but for that Intercontinental tape getting sold to CNN. But for that, you wouldn't have seen it, and he wouldn't have been charged. So Jonna, he's there because of the tape. So what are you going to do? You compound it 5 more times? And by the way, Jonna, I just want one last thing. I'm going to throw it to you. Don't you think the government, after taking a swing, overcharging the hell out of this case, losing spectacularly, the defense should get a downward departure for that.
Well, that's my question. Hold on. Let me set this up so people understand downward departures. In federal court, which is very different than state court, the probation department prepares a report and they calculate where someone they believe falls within the guidelines. The defense thinks it's a lot lower than the 7 years and 3 months that probation believes that the sentencing guidelines call for. So first of all, Jonna, how do we get to 7 years and 3 months? Do you believe that that's appropriate? And do you think the judge, this is now prediction time, do you think the judge goes within the guidelines, which would put it at a lot more than credit for time served?
Well, first of all, probation gets involved in advance of just about every sentence, right? And what they do is they dig into the charges. They dig into basically the entire life history of the defendant that's before them. They dig into whether they think that defendant has, quote unquote, learned their lesson and whether they're going to be able to re-enter society and what that's going to take. And they basically crawl up your butt and then make a report and hand it over to the judge. The judge does not have to accept it hook, line, and sinker, but the judge uses it for guidance as well. In this case, and again, coming from me, a person who has publicly said, I don't like Diddy, I think he's a dirtbag, I truly believe this man deserves a downward departure for exactly what the other Mark said. He was overcharged. It cost him a fortune. It cost him part of his career. They never should have done this. And the problem is the thing that he was never tried for is the thing we hate him for, and that's what the tape where he beat up Cassie Ventura.
So in the interest of time, because I want to cover the next topic, I want to cover a couple more things with Diddy. Very quickly, your prediction. What's the sentence, Jonna?
I'm going low. I'm going less than the 39 months that Mark predicted. Or did you say 39? What did you
say, Geragos?
39 is the over-under. I'm taking the under.
Okay. And I say, all right. And I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say if probation got to 7 years and 3 months with a straight face, the judge goes along with that. And I think that that's the minimum time that he gets, 7 years and 3 months. Okay.
Minimum. So I should have set the over and under at 7 years.
We'll see. I don't think this judge didn't let him out on bond for any other reason other than he doesn't like him. I'm telling you, he does not like him. And I think he's gonna hit him hard. Yep.
I don't think you gamble when you go to Vegas. That's my takeaway.
But very quickly, though, a couple other points I really selfishly want to know. If he's your client, do you have Diddy address the court? And what do you tell him to say
absolutely.
Quickly? Yes?
Absolutely.
Yes, Mark?
You have him address the court.
What does he say?
I think you do. I have been in that Southern District. I can think of one case in particular where I had a client and I was not in front of this judge, but a different judge. And I went into the hearing thinking I would not have my client talk. And then I turned to my client and I said, I think you should speak. He spoke. Later, I saw the judge years later, and he told me that turned him. And I think it's important. I think Sean should address. I think absolutely Sean should address the court.
Okay, and I agree, but you really can't control how they're going to deliver their message. You would never let him just speak off the cuff, right? You'd make sure that he writes it out. You proofread it. You give some better words if somehow he's blaming other people and not taking responsibility, right, Jonna? Yes.
Well, wait. Let me ask you two a question. What could come out of Diddy's mouth that would change this judge's mind?
I got it. I am so sorry, and I accept responsibility for things I did in the past. I'm a different person today. Here's what I've done. The things I've learned in the horrible situation I've been in over the past however many days he's been in jail has changed my life. I promise you, Judge, I will never, ever be involved in anything. All right, maybe, Judge, a little lube, just a little bit. I can't stop using that. Mark, what do you think?
Look, I have seen this before. I've known, and I'm very frank about it. I've known Sean for decades. Yeah. He is a changed person, and changed in this sense. He needs to articulate that. He needs to articulate that this time out gave him perspective. And I think that he's the only one who can articulate it.
All right, so can't wait to see what happens. We've got this. It's been memorialized. Our predictions are there. Let's watch it in a couple of days and see what happens. Okay, let's shift gears. If you take a little Diddy, you throw in a little Epstein and Maxwell, you get this guy Howard Rubin and what he was involved in. This is an ex-Wall Street star. He's accused of abusing women in his penthouse sex dungeon. This guy's 70 years old. He's a former Salomon Brothers bond trader. He made Wall Street famous in some book that he wrote. He was arrested last week, Friday, on sex trafficking charges. Prosecutors said he took women to the penthouse blocks from Central Park where he had a bedroom. He painted it red, kind of reminds me of what Geragos has going in his house. He soundproofed it. He fitted it with devices. Now this part, now we deviate. I'm kidding, Mark. To use on the women. The indictment was unsealed in Brooklyn, where he's being prosecuted. His personal assistant, just like Ghislaine Maxwell, helped him out. It was his partner in crime. She recruited and she paid for at least a half a dozen women to participate in these bondage and sadomasochistic acts. But these acts went far beyond what these women signed up for. Apparently there was like a safe word, but the women were gagged, so they couldn't say the safe word. It's insane, and he's facing decades in prison. Actually, they're both are facing life, realistically, if they're convicted. Let's talk about this one. Jonna, I see you shaking your head, probably not with approval of their actions. No?
No, actually, nope. No. This is an old white Diddy. And I have to say something. Listen, I must be a prude because this whole lifestyle's not my thing. But it is some people's thing, you guys. So if you want to engage in a little S&M and you want to date an old guy and, and you're going to sit across, from a table at Cipriani and he's going to slide you a non-disclosure agreement, that's your first clue. Okay, so maybe you don't sign that. And if you do sign it, if you volunteer to have weird sex with a weird dude, when does that stop being on you? When does that become a crime? You may not like it. It may be strange. I get it. But if you're voluntarily participating, why are we criminalizing weird sex?
I can't tell if this is Jonna speaking or Jonna, who's been paid a hefty fee, hypothetically, to defend this creep. Was that really you, or were you just playing the role of defense lawyer?
No. I honestly, I could take this case. I would take this case.
Are you blaming the victims who said, I'll do X, Y, and Z, but then he's having... No. Okay,
I'm saying there's no victim. You know what your safe word is? This is your safe word. Stop, or I'm going to effing kill you. That's
Wait, but I can't...
Word.
Hold on.
If he doesn't, they're...
Wait, but I can't say it. He's got a sting in my mouth. I can't say the safe word, Mark.
Mark, can say it.
You can't say the safe word. This guy set him up for failure.
There's a whole lot to unpack here. I mean, not the least of which is, have you ever walked down the Fifth Avenue on Pride weekend? Because I have in New York, and I did it this year right after the closing arguments in Diddy. And I said to myself, it's a very strange place for all of these sex trafficking cases, Manhattan, because when I walk the mile and a half on Pride weekend, I see more risque stuff going on in the street than I do on some of these sex tapes. And, Jonna's point is, I think isn't this a civil case? Because to your point,
it was.
Right.
It was.
To your point, Mark, that if that ball had gotten into the mouth by force and without consent, then you might have a pretty compelling point.
Right.
But if you put the ball in your mouth and you wear the mask and you sign up for the dungeon, and then, it reminds me, Jonna, you'll appreciate this. Many years ago, it would not happen now, but I had a case in Pasadena court where my client was accused, he was the John, and was accused of exceeding. He had paid for one sex act, but he had gotten a different sex act and then didn't want to pay for it. And so the prosecution put their evidence on, and I made a motion, as we always do. In federal court, it would have been Rule 29, but in California, they call it an 1118, a motion to dismiss. The judge said, yeah, this is a breach of contract action, and he dismissed the rape case.
It sounded like theft of services, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, a theft of services. But it sounds more like to Jonna's point. I don't. I think just because Jonna's a woman, you don't say that she doesn't get it. Jonna would never be in that position unless that was Jonna's thing.
Unless I wanted to. Right.
So this thing did go to a civil jury. In 2022, a jury found him liable for trafficking and ordered him to pay $3.9 million. So it already the jurors in the civil arena rejected the notion that these women wanted it.
No, no, that's not true. Number one, it sounds like it should have been handled in a civil case. I don't know why these prosecutors keep taking civil cases and criminalizing them. I mean, Cassie was a civil case. She got her payday. She
could be both. Check. Could be both.
It could be. But when you run to the lawyer to get a payday first, as opposed to run to the police station, I take issue with that.
No, look, the first time I'm now just agreeing with you. Not that I disagreed with everything you said. I was playing devil's advocate.
No, you were playing DA's advocate.
There we go.
Just being a devil.
And I play it well. And I'll tell you this, I agree. I love it when they went to a civil lawyer first. Doesn't mean that they weren't injured, by the way, but it certainly creates the presumption of, gold digger, money grab.
Well, by the way, how many times do you try, when I am in civil court, and what you explain to jurors is civil court is money court. Criminal court is liberty court.
Correct.
So if you're here for money, then call it what it is. But don't start confusing the two, money and liberty.
How about this guy gets acquitted of all the main charges, but only gets convicted on the Mann Act stuff, and we get to see what he gets and compares the two. The white Diddy, as Jonna calls him, versus,
old white Diddy.
Right? Yeah, old white Diddy will take you on his private jet to Vegas next time with your wife.
All right. So, guys, excellent analysis. Next up, we're going to talk about the David case. Who's David? We're so old, we don't know who this singer is, and he spells his name real funny, but there's a major update in that case. Listen, if you have any questions or comments for us, we would love to hear from you. We actually do get this stuff. We discuss it. So send us in stuff. You can email us at mktruecrime@devilmaycaremedia.com. I've asked for them to get a longer email, but they said it's not possible. mktruecrime@devilmaycaremedia.com. We would love to hear from you.
Afternoons can be rough. Energy fades, cravings kick in, focus goes out the window. The quick fix, another coffee, but that can lead to jitters or a crash later or can interfere with sleep. Peak's Sun Goddess Matcha is another option. It can give steady energy and help you focus without the ups and downs. This is not just any matcha. It's organic, ceremonial grade, and grown in Japan's pure volcanic soil far away from pollution. It's harvested by tea masters and screened for toxins not once, but 4 times. That is how serious they are about quality. The taste is smooth, creamy, and rich, not bitter like lower quality matcha. It's packed with antioxidants to keep you sharp and steady. Whether it's how the day starts or how it gets back on track, this matcha is not just a drink. It can be a better daily habit. Right now, you can get up to 20% off for life, plus a free rechargeable frother and glass beaker. It's backed by a 90-day money-back guarantee. Go to peaklife.com/Megan. That's PIQUE life.com/Megan to try it for yourself. Again, that's PIQUE life.com/Megan.
A dead girl was found in the trunk of singer David's car, and now he's lawyered up. The first question is, who the heck is David? Right? We have 3 old people on the panel here. I'm including myself.
Hey.
Yes. Hold on. You knew who David was? Apparently, I didn't even use a last name, and it's D4vd. And thanks to ChatGPT, I learned it's actually David, that stylistically he uses a number 4 instead of an A. Thank you. I've learned that. Now, apparently, he lawyered up, and the crime to me is clear. This happened in LA. So to me, the first obvious crime is that he didn't hire Geragos. Can you explain why that happened?
Goes without saying.
Yes, I can tell you, because first of all, I've said this to anybody who'll listen. I'm not so sure there was a crime that was committed. And number two, if he committed a crime and put her in his own trunk and then left the car to be picked up while he went on tour, then he should be convicted just on felony stupid. So
right.
I just don't, I'm not buying it. I tend to be, I don't often agree with the LAPD, which by the way stands for lost and presumed destroyed. But
I didn't know
this
that.
case, yes. Well, but in this case, I tend to agree with them. I don't know how you're going to prove that there was a crime that was committed.
This is musician David Anthony Berk. He's known professionally as D4vd, so David. And in his trunk was a 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. He hired this guy, Blair Berk.
It's a woman.
This person? Oh, it's a woman.
It's a woman, yes.
Blair Berk, limited experience on murder cases, I've been told. Jonna, what do you do here?
So I agree with Mark. I'm not convinced at all that there was a crime committed by this potential defendant, David, with a 4. By the way, I'm going to change the spelling of my name to J0NN4, just so you know what, because you called me old and I need to prove it wrong.
So mysterious. So
that's what I'm going to do. So this could really be something, like I said, concealment of a body is a far cry from murder. It's sad. This victim of whatever she is a victim of had I guess she was kind of like a runaway. She had police coming to her house numerous times. She was lying about her age. She was really only 15. Everybody else thought she was 19. It sounds like she had a very hard life, and that's the part that makes me sad. I am curious about one thing, and Geragos, you might know about this. Blair Berk has represented a lot of celebs, but I don't think some of these celebs have ever committed a crime. Like Reese Witherspoon, what the heck did she ever do? That's one of her.
Probably not criminal. Probably not criminal.
So,
and by the way, the concealment in a trunk there is a mere misdemeanor, so up to a year in jail. So if that's really all that he's facing, then he's
well.
In good...
I don't. Yeah, and I'm not. Like I said, I always wonder about cases like this that catch your imagination because there's somebody high profile involved. It seems to me to be a lot more consistent with the facts that this poor girl was given something, some kind of a drug that she OD'd, or OD suggests that she knew what she was doing. That isn't necessarily the case. They will figure that out from the forensics. Somebody panicked. Somebody put her in the trunk. Why he would do it is beyond me. That makes zero sense. I don't get it at all. I mean, if there was somebody else who was involved with her and then she dies and then they find out what her true age is and they want to deflect from them, I could buy that.
All right. Well, here's some body cam footage. I don't know if this has anything to do with anything. This happened on September 18th after a 911 call. The family's house was swatted. Let's take a look at this.
We got a phone call from here saying that somebody was dead. Is there somebody else that lives on this property that has your address? What's your address?
No.
That's it.
That's it. That's what actually
we got. We got an address. There was a gunshot and a woman screamed.
What?
I'm serious. That's why we came up here like this, because and then they talked to the caller. Whoever they were talking to said that there's a person dead.
No, sir. No, sir.
That's not normal activity. If you were at the wrong address, they'd be concerned about somebody else. Like really? You know what I mean? Maybe they'd be trying to help. But it would ping here though, because wherever they call from, it pings and sends it to dispatch.
What?
So whenever you call 911, wherever you are, it sends like a ping. That's how they know the address.
And this address came up to this number?
Yes, ma'am, that's where he was meeting. County to engine 42.
So is that somebody on my property?
It could be. We'll check the property for you.
Yes, please.
What do you make of that, Jonna?
Talk about negligent infliction of emotional distress. How do you get a couple of cops who don't know crap about crap coming to some parent's house and saying, oh, somebody's dead around here, we got a ping? That was horrible policing right there.
You think? All right, we got to shift to Brittany Fortenberry. I don't know if it's Fortenberry. We're going to call it Fortenberry. And if I'm mispronouncing her name, listen, that's the worst thing that I could do. Some of the things that she's allegedly done pale in comparison. All right, this is a married teacher accused of scream mask orgies. By that, I mean this woman had some of the people involved in her little orgy wear the scream mask, which is not uncommon in the Geragos household. But again, it's all consensual. Now, this woman is from Martinsville, Indiana, and she now has a total of, are you ready? 47 counts. Sexual misconduct with a minor, 47. That actually is the number of symphonies and concertos that Mozart had composed by the age of 17. It's the same number of major works that Shakespeare has created. 47. You can look it up. I did. Now, Geragos, how are you defending this woman? It's all just a big conspiracy. Everybody's pointing a finger at her. Allegedly, she was giving these kids drugs and having sex with them. This is pretty bad stuff, Geragos. What are you doing with this one?
I have a question.
Yes.
You get it. And by the way, is the theme of this episode 4, the number 4? Because we've got
Yes.
47, we've got David with a 4, we've got John as the outlier with the 0, but the we 4 seems to be. How long has it been since you were a teenager? As a former teenage boy, I would like to tell you, and I've defended women who have been charged with having sex with underage boys. And I know this is not a popular opinion, but I will tell you, every time I've ever had one of those cases, the prosecutor ends up begging me to take something, anything, because the last thing they want to do is have one of those boys get on the stand and have to testify that they were forced to have sex with a teacher. I grew up down the street from David Lee Roth and Van Halen, who famously made popular the song Hot for Teacher. I have to just tell you, I don't get these cases where they charge the women and throw the book at them for having sex with the boys. Yeah,
Jonna, please educate the old guy. Can you educate him how damaging this is to teenagers?
Yes,
please.
Please. Really
please explain how something that I begged for when I was a teenager to occur actually does harm to teenage boys. Please explain that, Jonna.
I'll tell you why it might be mildly harmful to a teenage boy. Because if a teenage boy, if 47 teenage boys are having sex with a teacher, there's something really wrong with that teacher, especially when she gets off with the scream mask and the orgies. Oh, and by the way, fun fact, she's married and has teenagers of her own. So that's not really the kind of healthy relationship even a teenage boy should have. That woman is sick in the head. And as a matter of fact, her defense team is going to explore that further. They think she suffers from some sort of mental disease or defect.
Oh, you think?
And I concur.
Okay, so a couple of things. Number one, she had sex with a lot of these kids while her own kids were sleeping in neighboring rooms. That's weird. Number two,
that's weird. I'll give you that.
Oh, really? You're giving me that, Geragos.
I'll give you that.
Bitch, be crazy.
How conservative of you.
Yes,
Wow.
I still will tell you, if it wasn't 47 and she wasn't getting, riding the train or whatever, I would be. I still don't understand it. And by the way, if it is
you interrupted me because there's more to what this woman did. This woman who should
once again DA advocate here.
Okay. Well,
cleaning up the streets from mills.
Okay. So this woman apparently sent nude pictures of herself, drugs also, and apparently she threatened to kill herself if any of these kids told on her. Additionally, one of the boys who she had sex with, a 15-year-old, said, this is no different than a 30-year-old man and a 15-year-old girl having sex. He said the molestation is there. He felt that he was molested. What? That's right. What? Go ahead. What?
You know what that is. That guy's already been to the civil lawyer. Give me a break. That guy, I guarantee you, I will bet you any amount of money that guy's already lawyered up and he's ready to sue, and he's going to sue the school district.
All right. Yeah. Here's one thing that's really even more bizarre in this case. I love this. This woman, Fortenberry, reports that she regrets losing weight. She lost 150 pounds, apparently. She said that if she didn't lose that weight, she would not have run into the problems that she ran into.
Yeah, she got too hot. You know, she got too hot.
Too hot for teacher.
47 teenagers.
Too hot for teacher.
Yeah, I suffer with the too hotness all day long.
I know. Jonna cannot relate to this because she didn't gain the weight. She was naturally hot. But when you get too hot, 47 boys, you know. By the way,
I disagree. And for the record, I disagree and I object to you making light of this. And I will ask you to take it seriously. At the very end, let me ask you both, her chances of arguing that mental illness or defect caused her to do this, about, I think, the same as my chance of finally getting into the NBA at 57, and my jump shot sucks. What do you think, Jonna? Her chance of prevailing, arguing mental illness or defect?
Look, we don't know yet. We don't know what she's got going on upstairs, but it ain't normal, Mark. It ain't normal.
It ain't going to work. Geragos.
Have to do it. They have
Come
to
on,
it.
Geragos.
Look,
any chance? Come on.
It clearly isn't normal, but the fact we're talking about it and the fact that there is any kind of not taking this all that seriously tells you it's not the same as if the sexes were reversed. It just isn't. I know that that's unpopular, but that's reality.
And by the way, when you make comments, viewers, make sure you specify which Mark you're talking about, okay? Just to make sure you put Mark G or Geragos when you're criticizing. I'm just saying I have thin-skinned on some comments. Make sure you specify. Anyway, next up, there was a gruesome and tragic quadruple murder in Austin, Texas that stayed unsolved for 30 years. Well, now it's solved.
We talk a lot on this show about personal freedom. Well, part of that is owning your privacy. And let me tell you, if you have ever Googled your name and found your home address, your phone number, or even your income floating around, it is not a coincidence. That data is bought and sold by data brokers without your consent. This is why I want to tell you about Incogni. It's a service that fights back on your behalf. Incogni contacts those shady sites and gets your personal data removed automatically. No forms, no emails. They handle the back and forth with these brokers, and they just update you through their simple dashboard. It can really be a relief. If you care about your privacy and want fewer spam calls, junk emails, and less risk of identity theft, consider this step. And right now you can get 60% off an annual plan at incogni.com/Megan. Use the code Megan when you check out to get your discount of up to 60% off. That's huge, 60. Okay, it's spelled INCOGNI, INCOGNI.com/Megan. Use that code Megan on checkout and take back control of your data with Incogni.
All right, we're going to get to closing arguments, which I love, and your mail in just a moment. But first, we're going to talk about a case that went cold for decades. It's a case that in 1991, there were 4 teenage girls who were at a yogurt shop in Austin, Texas. Remember those I can't believe it's not yogurt places? I think that we all thought that it was absolutely great for us. And then there's that Seinfeld episode. All right, I digress. Anyway, people died because people were killed. And modern DNA has now identified who the perp is. HBO is coming out with I believe, some type of show about it. Let's look at that clip and then we'll talk about it. Yeah, this looks like one I'm going to want to watch, right? This looks interesting. All right, so Jonna, justice after all this time. Apparently, through DNA, they were able to identify the perp. His name is Robert Eugene Brashers. Boy, we sure like to say someone's name and hold them accountable when they're alive, right? It's not as sweet, right? Yeah.
So, yeah, this was really a cold case. And look back then in the 1990s and earlier, it was hard. We didn't have the technology that we have today. Now we do. So we can solve some of these cold cases, but we do like to have a defendant sitting at the defense table when we do. In this case, we don't, because through genetic genealogy, they did manage to find the perp, but the perp had killed himself, I believe, several years earlier. It still gives closure, so that's a good thing. But this is a very interesting dig into this very cold case that we now have been able to solve.
Geragos, what troubles me about this story was that in 1999, they had a task force led by the Austin Police Department, and they rounded up 4 men. They were teenagers around the time of the murder, and they were questioned and released, lack of evidence. But then 2 of them were later arrested and convicted. 2 innocent people were convicted. The appellate court finally set aside their guilty verdicts, but this was a miscarriage of justice for those 2, huh?
So one of the things you often hear, I'm sure you two get all the time, is how do you defend these people when you know they're guilty? How do you sleep at night? How do you say? How many times have you heard that? I always say, I sleep fine because I'm holding the government accountable. What makes me lose sleep is when I believe somebody is innocent. And so this is a perfect example of that. And this is why you need criminal defense lawyers. Otherwise, by the way, speaking of sleep, brought to you by the same state that they had to go to the appellate court to find that it was ineffective assistance of counsel when the criminal defense lawyer was asleep at counsel table. So I think better late than never on these things. I get that there is not as much satisfaction, but the fact that people will recognize that you can get caught up in the hoopla and the circus around something and that you may not have the evidence, I think that's an important lesson to be learned.
Let's put down the pitchforks sometimes, folks, and don't believe everything you see in the media. Let's see what the evidence yields. Not everybody's guilty, as Geragos says. By the way, they used the same technique in this case, which was the genetic genealogy that they used to solve the 2018 Golden State Killer case. So we're going to see a lot more of that in the future. Okay, folks, it is time for Legal Mailbag. Dun, 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 dun. Am I making music here? We need to have some kind of music. Legal Mailbag. Anyway, Elena wrote in at mktruecrime@devilmaycaremedia.com. Love the show. I would love insight on the Ellen case in Philly, where it was ruled a suicide, but she had stabbed herself 20 times, and some of those were to the back. I love that one. Jonna, what do you say to Elena?
Yeah, Elena, so we talked about this case on the September 10th show, and Mark Eiglarsh, I think it was the 2 of us, and we were both trying to figure out how somebody could stab themselves in the back and the back of the neck 20 times. Seems to defy logic unless you're a circus freak. So we're not buying that, and we are going to dig into that story more.
Yeah, Sergeant Silly Pants investigated with Detective Giggles. And just because the boyfriend found her and said it's a suicide, they go, okay, let's wrap it up. Anyway, that was a great episode. All right, so it's time for closing arguments. Love this segment. We're going to go with Mark Geragos first. What do you say?
Well, I say this will be one that you can save because when this drops, he may have already been sentenced. Building on what I had argued earlier, I think that under the sentencing guidelines, if you go to trial and lose, meaning you get convicted, but by the way, if you testify, the government will say you lose 3 levels of responsibility or acceptance, you lose 2 levels for obstructing justice, you get tax, tip, and service charge during your sentencing. I think there ought to be just the opposite. I think under the sentencing guidelines, and I may call or write them as well, I think when the government overcharges and loses, I think the defendant ought to get a benefit for that, and the government ought to be punished. They ought to be told, sit this one out. You tried, you lost. You're not here to be a sore loser. That's my feeling and my belief as to what should happen with the sentencing guidelines.
Okay, thank you very much, Geragos.
I like
Jonna, we all await your closing argument. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have one. I have one in here. Okay, so in case you haven't been keeping up with the dueling lawsuits between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, allow me to bring you up to speed. Justin Baldoni, as you know, was the male lead producer and director of the movie It Ends With Us. The flick quickly devolved from blockbuster to ballbuster after his co-star Blake Lively kicked off a flurry of accusations in a sexual harassment complaint against Baldoni that dropped just days before Christmas last year. Bah humbug. Baldoni punched back with a $400 million countersuit, only to have a judge leave most of that on the cutting room floor, while Lively had one of her back and forth claims against Baldoni's team also dismissed. You keeping up? Good. Because enter Taylor Swift, who was subpoenaed, then unsubpoenaed, then sort of asked nicely to show up for a deposition, an invitation which understandably pissed her off. And if right about now you're asking who's on first, that would be the big deal criminal defense lawyer hired by Baldoni just last week. This begs the most profound of legal questions. What the hell is really going on here? Personally, from the beginning, this case felt like a high-priced publicity stunt. It has since morphed into a battle of egos with seemingly no end in sight. I've handled Title VII sex harassment cases, and while no two are exactly alike, this one is especially hard for me to wrap my mind around. Why? Because in real life, people don't have intimacy coordinators. In real life, simulating sex isn't part of most jobs. And in real life, staying in character isn't a thing. Blake Lively gets paid big bucks to do all of that with some of Hollywood's sexiest men, and now cries foul because the acting was what? Too real? Is that it? In an industry where people make money to convincingly pretend, where is the line between Oscar-worthy performance and sexually harassing behavior? You want to know what I call getting paid millions to make out with Ben Affleck or Brad Pitt or Bradley Cooper? My dream job. Here's my advice, Blake. Your case has a bit of Amber Heard odor to it, and well, we all know how that worked out, don't we? And Justin, you don't need a criminal defense attorney to win this case. You need a divorce lawyer, because divorce lawyers are uniquely qualified to handle parties who fight for stuff they don't want just so the other side can't have it. Let it go, both of you. Courts are densely populated with real claims. And when you take up a court's time with red carpet crybaby bullshit, you slow the wheels of justice for those who really do need relief. Lick your wounds, forget your feelings, and put this to bed, because the legal war over This Ends With Us just needs to end, period.
Nicely done. And now
Thank
my
you, sir.
closing argument. Forgiveness. I want to talk about forgiveness. It's not for everyone. In fact, many of us were shocked to see Charlie Kirk's widow come out recently and forgive the killer of her husband. That was just extraordinary. She didn't do it because she condoned the conduct in any way. She did that to try, at least at a minimum, to ease some of the burden that she would face in the future for the rest of her life for what he did to her, her children, her family, and to the world. It's not for everyone. Recently, I saw that extraordinary sense of forgiveness in a case where I was defending someone who technically and tragically was responsible for the death of a female friend. He didn't mean to do it, but technically he was responsible. And so criminal charges were brought. He was facing decades in prison. And as always, prosecutors consider the next of kin, in this case, the parents of the girl, and asked, "What do you think we should do?" My client wouldn't have lasted a day in prison. These people could have asked for it and the prosecutor would have given it. Instead, they opened up their hearts. They forgave my client for what he did. They asked for leniency. And then they asked again. And they continued over the 2 years that I litigated this case to continue to ask the prosecutor passionately, please show him mercy. And my client, who had never been in trouble before, who got his life in order, who finished and got his college degree and wants to serve in the Navy now may be able to join their civil engineering program because the prosecutor reduced the charge to a mere misdemeanor. They saved his life. Now, it's not for everyone, and I'm not advocating it. I'm saying that when I see it, when I see extraordinary acts of forgiveness like that, I'm in awe, and I admire people who do it. It's been said that forgiveness does not excuse their behavior. Forgiveness prevents their behavior from destroying your heart. Okay, that's my closing argument, and I thank all of you for listening and watching. My fellow contributors, I can't thank you enough. Mark, I think the world of you. Mark Geragos, Jonna Spilbor, you guys are great. And I feel like getting in trouble just so I can have you defend me. It would be extraordinary to have that happen. I'm going to go be naughty this weekend. All right, thank you for joining us, everybody, on MK True Crime. Send us any story ideas, suggestions, criticism, only to Geragos, not the other Mark, at mktruecrime@devilmaycaremedia.com. That's mktruecrime, get another pen, at devilmaycaremedia, get another pen, it ran out of ink, .com. Thanks again for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend.